It's that time of the year where Saints rumors and thoughts are flying around the world right now. And one of the popular ones is Alvin Kamara's future. Will he get traded? Will he be released? What's going on for AK-41? Let's talk about that right here on the Straight Up Saints podcast.
You're listening to the Straight Up Saints podcast.
What is up, Who Dat Nation? Welcome back inside another video from the Straight Up Saints podcast. I'm your host, Chris Vogel, and as always, we're brought to you by Scott Vignair, Injury Lawyers, and DraftKings Sportsbook. So let's dive right into this one. Alvin Kamara's future with the Saints. It is an interesting / mild to a little popular talking point right now on Saints social media, and a big part about it is from a recent article that came out from Bleacher Report. So they were talking about hypothetical trades involving big-name players that can go down. And they brought one up between the Saints and the Ravens, centered around Alvin Kamara. And this is how the deal would go down. The Saints would get rid of Alvin. The Ravens would part ways with, wait for it, a 7th-round pick. That's the trade. That's all. Reason for it being low compensation in terms of what the Saints are getting back is because of Kamara's salary. He's getting older. And for the Saints, they don't have a lot of leverage according to Bleacher Report because, look, they got to shed money because of their cap situation. So that's their explanation for it. Now, I'm not saying for certain that Alvin will be on the Saints for this season, although personally, I think there's reasons to believe he will be, a lot of them, and I'll get into them in a little bit. I think this trade, where is the value for the Saints? Because when it comes down to Alvin, anyone who's saying, oh, just get rid of him because you have to shed a salary and you got to be cap compliant, a trade this offseason involving Alvin does not help the Saints get to where they need to go in terms of getting underneath the cap threshold. Because the only way the Saints would actually save a significant amount of cap would be if Alvin is either cut or traded after June 1st. But you need to be cap compliant by the time that new league year starts. It doesn't have to be, by June. If it was by June, okay. Then I think this is a little bit more possible than I believe it is right now. But that's not how it goes. You got to be cap compliant in March, not cap compliant in June. So for me, when we look at the specifics of Alvin's contract, if he were to get cut pre-June 1st, the Saints only save $1.6 million, and you take on a dead cap charge of $17.2 million. That's the same if he gets traded pre-June 1st. $17 million in dead cap, $1.6 million against the cap that you save. So you're getting rid of a productive player, a leader, a guy that I still think can make plays. Now, I don't think Alvin's a lead anymore, but I still think Alvin's a really good player. You would get rid of that just to save $1.6 million. That doesn't make any sense. And for New Orleans to be cap compliant, trading Alvin pre-June 1st is not one of those moves that you're looking at as like, oh, that's the one that sheds a lot of salary. It doesn't. So it's literally false. That would be the case. Now, if you want to tell me during the season, the Saints didn't alter Alvin's contract in the offseason, they're not playing that well, but Alvin looks pretty good and someone wants a running back, let's entertain a trade because I think that would be the best possible scenario. A contender would give up a decent asset, maybe like a 4th or 5th rounder for Alvin. And if you're New Orleans, if you're not going anywhere, fine, you take it. And you're like, Alvin's not really part of our future. As great as he's been for this organization, he's not part of your future. Fine, I can live with that. But to say as of today that you trade him for a 2024 7th-round pick when that's not helping your cap situation, absolutely not. So I think when I look at that trade, I think it's hilarious. But there are also reasons to believe that he will be a Saint in 2024. And let's jump right into those and talk about why.
Looking for a super offer for Super Bowl 58? DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered. New customers can bet on the big game and turn $5 into $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code BOOT. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58 with code BOOT. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/basketball terms.
For starters, with Alvin, you got to look at him being a productive player. It's not as if he's at the point where you're just shedding salary and getting rid of a guy that doesn't contribute. Look, Alvin's days of being an elite rusher, they're not there. And I don't even know if he really ever was an elite rusher, but he was an elite playmaker. And I still think he's a good playmaker for these two reasons. One, I think in terms of just being able to run the route tree as a running back, he's up there. And two, he is reliable from a health standpoint. Like Alvin missing games this year was strictly because of suspension. It's not about him getting hurt. He's a tough dude. You feel like he's going to be there for the long haul. So I think he's productive and reliable in terms of health. Those are big things. Like he had over 1,100 scrimmage yards, and I know for Alvin standards that's not good because this is a guy that could get you 1,800 in his best years, and he could be the best running back in the league when he was in his prime. But 1,100 for a guy who missed the first 4 games of the season due to suspension and also had an offensive system that did not maximize his skill set, that to me shows that there's still a good football player in there for Alvin. Now, I talked about the system and not maximizing his skill set. You have a new play caller in Clint Kubiak. And I think if you're Clint Kubiak, when I look at this roster, Alvin's one of the pieces offensively, then I'm like, probably some, things I can do with him, whether it's getting him out in motion, revitalizing the screen game, maybe getting him matched up one-on-one against a linebacker or a safety, whatever it may be. I'd imagine that Clint Kubiak's looking at Alvin and saying, there's something I could do with that player. Now, I know he's doing it with Olave and Shaheed. Those are 2 guys that are the no-brainers, but new play caller, a much more younger, creative play caller than Pete Carmichael, I'd imagine he wants to work with Alvin, and I'd imagine Alvin would like to work with the play caller who will better utilize him than the Saints, because the Saints pretty much used him as a check down merchant instead of letting him use his receiving skill set. So, still productive, and you got a new play caller. Number 3, you are not helping your cap situation by getting rid of Alvin pre-June 1st. And even if you get rid of Alvin post-June 1st, and it's not before the season starts, what's the point? If I'm the Saints, if I go into June, July, whatever it may be, that's not the moment to trade Alvin. The moment is either you do it during the offseason or you do it before the trade deadline if the season doesn't go the way planned. Any other option to me makes 0 sense for this team, because then you're teetering on, are you trying to win now or do you got no clue? And that would tell me you got no clue if it's happening in August. So that part makes no sense for me. And the 4th reason, and probably the most important if we're just going from a business approach, there is not a lot of value to trading Alvin Kamara. I don't want the Saints to get rid of Marshawn Lattimore, but I think the Saints can get a decent pick back for Marshawn Lattimore. And even though I don't want to see him go, if the Saints get a 2nd-round pick for Marshawn Lattimore, and again, that feels like it's not enough due to his talent, it's still a 2nd-round pick. And if you nail that pick down and you get a really good player, all of a sudden, that trade seems a little bit more, manageable for New Orleans, not just for the immediate future, for the long haul. For Alvin, if you get rid of him for what, a 7th-round pick, what are the odds that 7th-round pick actually helps you out? It's pretty damn slim. So I think that part matters. You're not going to get a good pick. He's not helping your cap situation by getting rid of him pre-June 1st. And if you get rid of him post-June 1st, but it's not during the actual season, then it seems like you're teetering on the line of what are you doing? And I still think he's a productive player in a new system that can make a decent mark for New Orleans this fall. But we'll see what happens. I'm interested to know what you guys think with Alvin. Do you think he's going to get traded or released? What are your thoughts on his future? Let me know in the comments section below, and I'll get back to you. And as always, guys, make sure to subscribe to Boot Crew Media's YouTube page for more videos from the Straight Up Saints podcast, the destination for